G'day, ZiggyD here and welcome back for some more Path of Exile. In this video I'm going to be giving you guys an update for my Beginner's Arc Witch, my Foxtactics Style Beginner's Arc Witch for patch 1.3. So the other day on stream I updated this character's passive tree and I actually pretty substantially changed around the skill setup as well for this character because there's been a couple patches since I initially made this and a few new things added to the game such as Heralds that I wanted to take advantage of. This character also had the change of shock stacks being removed from the game and being replaced by a single shock status element of 50%. Previously, before that, shock would stack 3 times, giving 30% damage each time up to 90%. So on the character before, you guys may remember I used to use a totem that would proliferate shock stacks to nearby enemies, increasing the damage the character did by a great amount. Now with the changes to the Templar area giving extra chance to shock, and with there only being a single shock status element, it's no longer worth running that totem. So in that place, I am now running a Vaal Stormcall setup, and I've switched around quite a few other things here to run Herald of Thunder, and I'm even running a Herald of Thunder Curse on Hit setup, which is now kind of all the rage, and for good reason, because it is a really great way to automate your character. So in terms of auras, I now run Herald of Ice for added damage, Herald of Thunder for added damage and cursing, and we still run Clarity and Discipline. The aura I decided to drop to be able to run this particular setup is Purity of Lightning. I have tested dropping Purity of Herald of Ice and running Purity of Lightning, and the unreserved mana gets a little bit too low. Maybe with really good gear that's something you could pull off, but we want at least 700 to 800 mana for a Mind Over Matter Cloak of Defiance character. Notice that this character is wearing the Legacy Cloak of Defiance that has 40% Mind Over Matter effect. Any characters made from this point onwards will only have 30%, so 700 to 800 mana unreserved is fine. Previously this character wanted a little bit over 1,000, not a bigger deal now since it's not 40% for any characters running this. Now, if you're wondering about this character and what its deal is, essentially it's a very cheap, very beginner-friendly character. It's very easy to play, and basically everything on this character costs like about an Exalt, slightly more than an Exalt. If you and like to level it up to progress into that point, it's something that you can do without any existing wealth as well. That's an important point. For example, Joffrey's goes for almost nothing now since a few other changes in the game have made it less popular. Moon Sorrows are also cheap as chips, and an unlinked Cloak of Defiance, because this one doesn't need a 5-link, is very, very cheap as well, since we run our Arc setup in Joffrey's Crest. It's really budget, it's really nice. If you want to buy a leveled up Arc gem to sort of save yourself some time and boost your DPS, you can do so. Same deal if you want to buy like a level 2 in power, then it's going to cost you quite a bit more, but that's essentially skipping some of the leveling that you'll have to do on the character. So, as usual, we are running a high-level Arctic Armor, and I have set this up so that this character, based on the passive skill tree and based on the gear you're likely to have, will be able to run a level 20 Arctic Armor. I think ours is currently level 17, but it's basically just leveling up at this point. So I'll jump on into the map here, and I'll show you guys how it's working in patch 1.3, and how we use the Vaal Stormcall setup, and I'm pretty overall happy with it. I'm pretty happy with the changes. I feel like the character is stronger and more fun to play because it's much more automated now with that Herald of Thunder setup. So I'll go over the passive tree at the end of sort of showing off some of the gameplay just here. So we're going to activate Arctic Armor because we still have to do that every map. And essentially what we're going to do here is just zap some of these packs, and you'll see our Vaal Stormcall comes up almost instantly. We're going to be running Vaal Stormcall pretty much all of the time on this character. Like, we nearly always want this up. The other thing you really want to do with this character is, again, if you've seen previous content, is keep your Ad Series Promise up all of the time as well. You have to kind of get in the habit of doing that, and because I haven't played much of this character in a while, I'm sort of a little bit out of the habit of doing that, but if you keep that up all of the time, your DPS works really, really nicely. We get about 9k DPS on Arc. This is a non-crit Arc character, and it works very nicely even without crit, just thanks to Ad Series Promise and just thanks to raw damage scaling and also shocking enemies. Now, I have a few gems sort of that need progressing here. We're not leveling up the Immortal Call, Increase Duration, and Spell Echo. That actually brings me to another change. Previously used to run a Molten Shell Enduring Cry setup on this character. I've found it's more useful to mitigate spike damage rather than light damage since we're running Arctic Armor. So I'm now running Enduring Cry, Immortal Call with increased duration, as that's a setup that makes a little bit more sense. So single target has always been a bit of a problem for non-crit Arc, but now thanks to our Vaal Stormcall, that's much less of a problem. That adds a whole bunch of extra damage. So basically you just pop Ad Series Promise and you pop your Vaal Stormcall, and you don't really have that much problems with single target. Rares and all that sort of thing are very easy. For mobility we use Lightning Warp, same as usual, very fast. And with the sort of, once you get into the rhythm of playing the character, you can basically warp between each pack, pop your Vile Stormcall, just sort of go ham, destroying everything. And because this is basically an aimbot character, Arc automatically aims, it is very, very easy to play and very beginner friendly. Basically, you don't need to actually click in any particular direction. All you need to do is focus on using your Flask, using your Vile Stormcall, and positioning your character to avoid, you know, too much of the incoming damage. Like if there's a bunch of really nasty melee mobs, you want to position slightly away from them. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just Lightning Warp back here, and you can use Lightning Warp to reposition the entire time. And thanks to a lot of cast speed, it's very fast to do. So you can see the character's pretty fun and effective. Even with just this very budget setup, this character can do 77 maps. I have done some 77 maps on it. I don't have any maps on standard to show you guys, unfortunately, so I'm doing a lower level one. But I have done some 77s on this character, and it works quite well. And especially once you get those gems leveled up, it becomes quite the breeze. There is quite a bit of room for growth. I think I found 2 Dark Forests. Nice. I think there is quite a bit of room for growth on this character. You can get the Doriana's Invitation belt to give you Lightning Leech, which is going to be a nice, really, really nice survivability boost, and also gives you a bit of extra damage. And then you can get, if you really want to push things, like if you're like, oh man, I love this character, I want to keep playing, and I want to just like destroy content on it, and maybe I even want to farm some Atsu in it, which is possible, then you'll want to get like Doriana's Catalyst and maybe switch to like a shield instead, or you could run 2 Doriana's Catalysts if you want to go uber damage. So you have a few options for spending up if you want to grow the character, but the initial base character basically can level with no existing gear, and works very effectively with that very cheap gear. I'm pretty happy with how this character turns out. Foxtactics was a bit of a genius for coining this playstyle, and all I've done is taken his initial ideas and ran with them and adapted them for the new changes in the game. So here we have the boss. I think I have enough Hatsuri's Promise to take this guy down. You can see I can just sort of face tank this guy as well. Arctic Armor plus a Granite plus Mind Over Matter. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem whatsoever. So very, very easy stuff. The character is very tanky, very, very decent clear speed for such a character that's so cheap, essentially. So finally, I'm going to go through. I think I didn't mention the Curse on Hit setup. I did talk about it a little bit, but I didn't sort of explain how it works in the actual map. Essentially, what happens as you attack enemies, you automatically shock them thanks to shock chance from here, shock chance from here, shock chance from over here, so that's 15% from the tree just there. Early on, you can get static blows and then respec out of it later. But we also get things like a quality arc, which you can get just like a 10-15 quality arc for a couple chaos, and that gives you extra chance to shock enemies as well. So this character has, I think it's about 35% chance to shock enemies, and then additional chance to shock energies from conductivity as well, which gives another 13%. So with the cast speed of Arg, it's more than enough to shock enemies consistently. So basically, the first pack you kill will proc Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder will strike enemies around you, automatically cursing them with conductivity, and it just keeps rolling that way, giving you that passive extra damage and cursing enemies. No more manually cursing enemies each pack. I'll tell you what, this character's a hell of a lot more fun now. Previously, what we had to do was manually curse a pack, then throw down a totem, and then attack them. Path of Exile's really progressed in terms of automating your character and making them a lot faster and more fluid and more fun to play. So the final thing is I'm just going to go over the passive tree and why we have set it up like we have. Taking advantage of the new Templar area, Celestial Judgment gives extra lightning penetration, which is a really nice damage boost, and it also means that we can get some lightning penetration on the tree without having to go up here. Heart of Thunder is a pretty excellent cluster, and if you wanted to play this without being as tanky, like you're not really worried about the tankiness so much, then maybe you could drop some life somewhere. I don't know, you could go up and get it, but I think the damage is fine without it. So we also get Celestial Punishment here, which gives extra damage against shocked enemies, which just adds on top of the other shock damage boost as well. We get all this nice stuff from Templar. We take advantage of the new nice regen in Templar area just here. We get Stormweaver, which is extra mana regen, which is just great for this character for running Eldritch Battery, Mind Over Matter, and Arctic Armor. That combo together just works perfectly. And Stormweaver, which is cold and lightning damage, which is our Herald of Thunder and our Herald of Ice and our base lightning damage and our mana regen. Such a good node. So we get all that stuff. We get the full aura cluster, though you can eventually drop the mana reservation just here. If you want to see how to level this character, by the way, the 7-day Beginner's Arc project covers everything like through. Although the tree has changed a little bit over time and stuff like that, you guys will still be able to follow that 7-day project to see how the character sort of grows. And of course, we do keep the Alchemist cluster. I had to keep this in. It was one of my favorite parts of this character. But this boosts the effectiveness of the Granite, the Atsuri's Promise, the healing, the Topaz Flask. It's good stuff. And then, of course, we still go down into the shadow area. Eventually, as you level up a little bit more, you're going to be filling out just down to here. And that is about it, guys. The tree is pretty simple, taking advantage of the really nice new Templar design, and still starting Witch for that extra little bit of mana regeneration there. Though you could potentially start Templar or Shadow if you wanted to. It works either way if you want to be a different looking character. The final point I wanted to note was we did a fair bit of testing on Reflect. Since I dropped Purity of Lightning, we were concerned that Reflect would be an issue. But after testing in Reflect maps and on various Reflect packs, it's really not a problem. You have the Topaz Flask for when you run into a Reflect pack. I've tested attacking a Reflect pack without the Topaz Flask, and you'll take damage fairly quickly, something like at this rate, after a couple of zaps, but it's plenty of time to react with a healing potion and a Topaz Flask. And I think it's good to learn to look out for and react to Reflect. You're not going to insta-give your character against Reflect on this character. It's pretty much impossible to do so, but you have that time where you're taking a bit of damage to take notice and pop that Topaz Flask. And the Topaz Flask enough is alone. You know, ideally don't want to run Elemental Reflect maps because you have to take it a little bit slower, but you can do so. It is possible. I did do one earlier. So guys, if you have any questions about the 1.3 update, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'm pretty happy with how this character turned out in the new patch. I feel like it's only gotten stronger and more fun to play. So that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.